Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back for the second series of Portal 2. This time we are going to do a developer commentary, quick run, and it is going to try and be a quicker run than well, I can't do the co-op. I don't have anybody to play with me, so we're skipping the co-op ones. But there's going to be a much quicker run than the first series. We're not going to break it up by load screen. We're going to run probably for, let's see, if there's 10 chapters, we'll probably go 3 and third chapters in each episode. Let's see if we can do that. And so we're going to do a few things different this time, but in particular we're just going to be faster, and these episodes are going to be much longer. Expect at most 5 episodes for the entire beginning to end of the single player campaign. So the fact that at the end of the single player game introduces the co-op, there is a slight story in there.
You have been in suspension for 50 days. In compliance with state and federal regulations, all testing candidates in the Aperture Science Extended Relaxation Center must be revived periodically for a mandatory physical and mental wellness exercise.
Hi, my name is Gabe Newell, and welcome to Portal 2. When we released the original Portal in 2007, it was an experiment to see how gamers would respond to a different kind of gameplay and storytelling experience. Portal went on to win a bunch of awards, sell many copies, and, most importantly, resonate with gamers in a way that no other Valve title has. The challenges for us in building Portal 2 were to live up to people's expectations, to take you back to the world of Chell and Aperture Science, and to surprise gamers again, not with more of the same, but with more of the new. And I think it will be, mostly, a pleasant surprise. To listen to a commentary node, put your crosshair over the floating commentary symbol and press your use key. To stop a commentary node, put your crosshair over the rotating node and press the use key again. Some commentary nodes may take control of the game in order to show something to you. In these cases, simply press your use key again to stop the commentary.
They said that in the first
Please
game.
let me know what you think after you've had a chance to play Portal 2. I can be reached at gaben@valvesoftware.com. I get about 10,000 emails each time we release a game, and while I can't respond to all of them, I do read all of them. Thanks, and have fun.
And I bet that's why Half-Life 3 hasn't been released, is that people keep emailing Gabe Newell, the owner of Valve, the runner of Valve. Okay, so he tells us to put the crosshairs over here, the crosshairs, and press the use key. I couldn't have played this if I hadn't done that in the first place. Also, that really settles that
The writers went back and forth over whether or not Wheatley had tried escaping with other test subjects before waking the player up. It was an interesting idea, and you can still hear remnants of the story arc in some of the dialogue. But at the end of the day, it was just too expansive a concept to sell. So it's hinted at, but not overtly mentioned until the end.
So I've been mispronouncing her name. It's not Cell, it's confirmed by Gabe Newell as Chell. I saw a alternate ending on YouTube that looked legitimate, where GLaDOS at the end kills you instead of lets you go free. This big old spoiler there. I guess I should have warned, why are you watching this if you haven't seen the end already? But she kills you, leaves you on the moon and lets you die, and calls you Chell. It wouldn't have been a very impactful ending, I don't think, and it doesn't leave the door open for a third series. I've also watched a little bit of gameplay of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and it is totally a shooter fighting zombies type things, and I understand that it's supposedly in the same world as Portal 2, but it's a totally different game. I would not be happy if Chell showed up in a Half-Life 3. unless Half-Life 3 is going to be actually Portal 3, and they're going to take out all the zombies and shooting and killing, because that's not what this game is about at all. So they probably need to stay separate. They could probably see each other if there was like a section in the where we come at the end of the game, look at a window, and you see Gordon Freeman and he sees Chell, and both games are released at the exact same time. That would be cool. But I want Chell doing puzzle games and Portal things, not Half-Life 2 things. And really, Half-Life 2 Episode 2 did not interest me that much. I don't think I've gotten in on the bandwagon.
The idea of being stuck forever in a state of stasis that looked like a crappy old motel room had been in our minds for a long time, but we weren't sure exactly how we wanted to rip you out of it. There was some debate over whether the opening sequence happened inside the player's head or not. There was an alternate opening where Aperture had hooked up all of its cryo-stored test subjects to an incredibly boring hotel room simulator, which Wheatley would then wake the player from. Eventually, this was discarded as too difficult to explain in the short time allotted, and we opted to change the hotel room to a container ride on a rail. This allowed us to show the player, rather than tell them, about how they and other test subjects have been stored, show some of the scale of the facility, and even hint at how much time has passed. We also get to gradually reveal all of this through the destruction of the container itself as it moves and bangs into things. Overall, this gives the player a much more dynamic and visceral introduction to Portal 2.
I have not yet done the very first action that's asked. Look up.
Good. You will hear a buzzer. When you hear the buzzer, look down at the floor.
I said this was going to be a speed run, but in actuality, listening to the
this completes the
commentary,
gymnastic portion of your mandatory
it's going to be a
physical
little
and mental
slower.
wellness exercise.
But I'm
There's a
going to
framed
run through
painting on the
puzzles
wall.
faster.
Please go stand in front of it. This is art. You will hear a buzzer. When you hear the buzzer, stare at the art. You should now feel mentally reinvigorated. If you suspect staring at art has not provided the required intellectual sustenance, reflect briefly on this classical music. Good.
So,
now please return to your
in
bed.
Portal 1, you wake up in this tube cryostasis thing, but apparently they're indicating that was just the temporary transport cryostasis unit, and this is the permanent cryostasis. It's nicer, it looks like a hotel room. I don't know why.
Good morning. You have been in suspension for 9999999. This courtesy call.
Hello? Anyone in there?
Subject should vacate the enrichment
Hello?
center immediately.
Ah! Ah! Oh God, you look good. Looking good, actually. Are you okay? Are you? Don't answer that. I'm absolutely sure you're fine. There's plenty of time for you to recover. Just take it slow.
Please prepare for emergency evacuation.
Stay calm. Stay calm. Prepare. That's all I'm saying. Prepare. It's all fine. All right. Don't move. I'm gonna get us out of here.
The plant's dead.
Oh, you might want to hang on to something. Word of advice. Up to you.
So the plant was alive?
You all right down there? Can you hear me? Hello? Most test subjects do experience some cognitive deterioration after a few months in suspension. Now, you've been under for quite a lot longer, and it's not out of the question that you might have a very minor case of serious brain damage. But don't be alarmed, all right? Although if you do feel alarmed, try to hold on to that feeling, because that is the proper reaction to being told that you've got brain damage. Do you understand what I'm saying at all? Does any of this make any sense? Just tell me, just say yes. Okay, what you're doing there is jumping. You just jumped. But never mind. Say apple. Apple. Okay, you know what? That's close enough. Just hold tight.
Chell
All
never
reactor
speaks
core
in the first
safeguards
game
are now
either,
non-functional. Please prepare for reactor core meltdown.
If she really is brain damaged.
Okay, look, I wasn't going to mention this to you, but I'm in pretty hot water here. How are you doing down there? You still holding on? the reserve power ran out, so of course the whole relaxation centre stops waking up the bloody test subjects. Hold on, this is a bit tricky. And of course, nobody tells me anything. No, why should you tell me anything? Why should I be kept informed? You know, about the life functions of the 10,000 bloody test subjects I'm supposed to be in charge of. Why? It's close. Can you see? Am I going to make it through?
10,000.
Just gotta get through here. Okay, I just gotta concentrate. And whose fault do you think it's going to be when the management comes down here and finds 10,000 flipping vegetables? Alright, so no, I hit that one.
So...
Okay, listen, we should get our story straight, alright? If anyone asks, and no one's going to ask, don't worry, but if anyone asks, tell them as far as you know, the last time you checked, everyone looked pretty much alive. Alright? Not dead. Okay, almost there. On the other side of that wall is one of the old testing tracks. There's a piece of equipment in there that we're going to need to get out of here. I think this is a docking station. Get ready. Good news, that is not a docking station. So there's one mystery solved. I'm going to attempt a manual override on this wall. Could get a bit technical. Hold on. Almost there. Remember, you're looking for a gun that makes holes. Not bullet holes. But don't worry, you'll figure it out. Seriously, do hold on this time. There we go. Now, I'll be honest, you are probably in no fit state to run this particular type of cognitive gauntlet. But, at least you're a good jumper. So, you got the jumping on your side. Just do your best, and I'll meet you up ahead.
So, they give every indication that there was 10,000 people, and they're all dead now.
The container ride destruction sequence provided some unique technical challenges.
I doubt
the dynamics you experience are actually computed as two separate but nested simulations. The first is a course-scale simulation designed as a stress element analysis pass. This pass computes the overall gross motion of the container itself and computes the collisions and breakpoints based on path keyframe data and a network of constraints. As the container bumps and crashes along, the constraints start breaking and the room progressively starts to come apart. There are over 300 rigid bodies and 900 constraints in this rig, all individually configured for properties like tensile, friction, and collision response. The core simulation portrayed gross motion that captured the main dynamics of the ride, but not the fine details. The product of the core simulation was then used to deform spline-based surfaces representing the container geometry, which in turn were parents to fine debris anchored as rigid bodies. As the surface deformations increase, anchors are broken and the fine debris rigid bodies are released into the simulation. The fine simulation also includes the interior furniture and the model detailing. The two simulations were then connected using cache data and were driven together by a series of scripts. Due to the computational complexities of having two nested simulations, we had to come up with some solutions to some interesting mathematical problems. One problem was that the nested nature of the simulations resulted in some instability in the fine debris calculations due to floating point computational limits. The solution employed for this was to compute the fine debris on a stage where the root transform of the course simulation was essentially cancelled out and stored for later use. This allowed us to more accurately detect the fine interactions between the debris and the environment. Post-simulation, the root transform position and inertia were reapplied to the details. We solved the problem of trying to compute the player within this highly dynamic environment by putting them in a virtual room that has all the base shapes of the rendered container, but is simply used to compute player navigation. It's hidden somewhere else in the map. The viewpoint of the player is then parented to the course simulation transform, resulting in the final rendered frame. At the end of the ride, the player is teleported into the actual game space. The simulations were iterative, enabling us to sculpt the dynamics in parallel with gameplay design. In the final product there are over 1,200 rigid bodies, 900 constraints and 1,000 joints. With all the iterations combined, the actual runtime spent computing the simulation was 92.4875 days.
Okay, so that was really technical. What it was talking about is how they rendered out how this room was destroyed. And they basically, inside the computer, created every single physics property of the room and then calculated all of it. And at the end he said, yeah, it took 92 days to render out that scene. And then, so basically all of that was a cutscene, but instead of being a cutscene that was just animated and created by people with no real respect to actual physics or tensile strength of the steel or anything, they put a lot of effort, they probably wasted effort in my opinion, to make it be realistic. This is the epitome of my theory of too much real-world physics, not enough game physics. The right way to have done this would have been just draw it from humans' creativity. You could have just had an animator draw it however they wanted it to be drawn, and it would have been easier. Probably. At least that's my opinion of it. Boy, I hope we don't get any more commentaries that dry and technical.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. We are currently experiencing technical difficulties due to circumstances of potentially apocalyptic significance beyond our control. However, thanks to emergency testing protocols, testing can continue. These pre-recorded messages will provide instructional and motivational support so that science can still be done, even in the event of environmental, social, economic, or structural collapse. The portal will open, and emergency testing will begin in 3, 2, 1.
It's pretty easy to get the game 3D models from this game. So there are several YouTube videos
based testing remains an important tool for science, even in a dire emergency.
Are out there where people took the models and just made their own videos. So if you search Portal 2 things on YouTube, you will see a lot of stuff that's not
Please note the
actually
incandescent
there.
particle field across the exit.
Not
This
actually
Aperture
in the
Science
game
Material
or having
Emancipation Grill will vaporize any unauthorized equipment that passes through.
Any unintended so there was one I watched called Meet the Cores, where the Cores were talking about themselves, and maybe it was actually a promotional material.
If you feel liquid running down your neck,
seemed like somebody just
lie on
made
your
it.
back and apply immediate pressure to your temples. You are simply experiencing a rare reaction in which the Material Emancipation Grill may have emancipated the ear tubes inside your head.
This room is meant to teach players the fundamentals of portals, connecting them to two places in the world. As the blue portal moves around the world, the orange stays rooted. In the original portal, this room had these portals moving by themselves on a timer. This led to most people simply staring through their orange portal, waiting for the blue one to end up in the right place. We felt that altering this to make the players decide where the portals came out was more instructive, and meant that players who already knew how to use portals could solve this puzzle both quickly and with authority.
Yeah, it's definitely a major improvement the way they did this puzzle.
Good. Because of the technical difficulties we are currently experiencing, your test environment is unsupervised. Before re-entering a relaxation vault at the conclusion of testing, please take a moment to write down the results of your test. An Aperture Science Reintegration Associate will revive you for an interview when society has been rebuilt. The Earth is currently governed by a manner of animal king, sentient cloud, or other governing body that either refuses to or is incapable of listening to reason.
They'd be telling the truth about 10,000. It seems really silly to introduce the concept that there was 10,000 test subjects.
There should be a portal device on that podium over the...
They're all dead now. I think if they were going to make a Portal 3, they're going to say, oh yeah, we actually do have the 10,000 still alive.
We thought of making a whole new character for Portal 2, but we didn't want to lose the relationship between GLaDOS and Chill that began in Portal 1. Once we decided to stay with Chill, we wanted to improve her look, updating her leg springs and jumpsuit to have a more functional design. At the same time, we didn't want players to not recognize her, so we kept a lot of the iconic elements like the color orange. She has folded down her jumpsuit to show she has essentially rolled up her sleeves and shed some of the Aperture label. She is awake again to test, but stronger and more determined than ever.
It might get a little boring though to have in Portal 3 there be all the way through the game you're just going to be playing as a different human doing tests.
Some emergency testing may require prolonged interaction with lethal military androids. Rest assured that all lethal military androids have been taught to read and provided with one copy of the Laws of Robotics to share.
Some of the things that the recording here says...
If you feel that a lethal military android has not respected your rights as detailed in the Laws of Robotics, please note it on your self-recording form. A future Aperture Science Entitlement Associate will initiate the appropriate grievance filing paperwork.
I think it would be perfectly fine if there was a Portal 3 that you play the first third or half of the game as some other person, possibly the Ratman, possibly just some other random test subject, and then Chell shows up.
This next test is very dangerous. To help you remain tranquil in the face of almost certain death, smooth jazz will be deployed in 3, 2, 1.
This map was one of the first of the older Portal maps that we beat up and decayed to bind the two games together. The smooth jazz joke is probably the oldest one in the game. The team discovered through playtesting that smooth jazz was funny to all ages, genders, and cultures.
Okay. There's a way to actually trap
Starting out in the ruins of the test chambers from the first portal was our goal pretty much from day one. We wanted to give players a sense of nostalgia for what they had played, but also make it very clear that things had changed. Not only in a fictional sense, but in a graphical one as well. We needed to bridge the gap between the first game's simpler art assets and the much more complex look of Portal 2.
It wouldn't bother me in Portal 3 if you played as a new person for the first portion of it, and then...
Great work! Because this message is pre-recorded, any observations related to your performance are speculation on our part. Please disregard any undeserved compliments.
What? And then in the middle of it, you actually die as that character, and then Chell comes across the body of that character, and from there, let's see. So, I believe now I've moved this a little bit this way. Have to get it all the way.
You have trapped yourself. Congratulations. The exit door is now open.
So as soon as I threw it through to the portal to this side, it trapped myself. So you can still sort of cheat, but not in the same way. They did seem to make this higher. Way I did it before, I stacked it up, took the box with me, actually got the box into this room, and it didn't get fizzled. Of course, the door shuts itself. There's two other places where you can trap yourself. I'll see if I can find them and remember where they are. There was a whole thing in the co-op, too. There is a story in the co-op where she uses the co-op robots to unlock a lockdown section of the laboratory she can't get into. That I think allows her to make more robots, like deadly android type. So she could have a whole army of testing robots.
If the Enrichment Center is currently being bombarded with fireballs, meteorites, or other objects from space, Please avoid unsheltered testing areas wherever a lack of shelter from space debris does not appear to be a deliberate part of the test.
So there's certainly elements to the co-op story that puts her in a different way. I think it would be pretty boring, though, to play Portal 3 as Peabody and Atlas. I think maybe the co-op initiative, the co-op part of the game, should maybe continue, maybe not. It wouldn't matter much to me either way. Boy, that got flung high. I think you need Shell. I think you need a human to make it interesting.
Well done. The Aperture Center reminds you that although circumstances may appear bleak, you are not alone. All Aperture Science personality constructs will remain functional in apocalyptic, low-power environments of as few as 1.1 volts.
Just like the cubes. So it doesn't even reload you because it's two people playing the same map. So you can sit there and just die over and over again, and there's no real consequences. But mostly,
this next test applies the principles of momentum to movement through portals. If the laws of physics no longer apply in the future, God help you.
Playing people, random people online, they're not very cooperative. Often you get kids and such that just want to screw around or just don't understand what to do, and so it can be a big pain to play co-op. Even with people I know, there's few people that are better gamers that I know, I mean, personally. So they wouldn't get it either, and I'm certainly not the best explainer. We haven't seen any commentary for a while.
If you are a non-employee who has discovered this facility amid the ruins of civilization,
much of the fun in Portal is based on the joy of the aha moment when you learn something new. The game needs a very specific pacing to ensure these moments. If things are too easy, then you're robbed of that moment since it feels like you didn't accomplish anything. If it's too hard, then players feel stupid instead of smart when they finally realize that one small part of the puzzle that they were missing. Unfortunately, trying to create that delicate balance leads to a lot of shuffling of levels and a lot of revisions and tweaks to existing levels. When we started the project, making any big structural change in a level, or the order of levels, would lead to hours or even days of busy work, trying to reconnect things and make sure they lined up again. If we ever wanted to ship something the size of Portal, with the finely tuned balance we desired, then we needed a way to be able to make the big changes to the layout of the game, without paying the cost of making everything line up again. We needed a way to bend space. We needed to think with portals. Using portals to connect different areas in the world, we could make any type of impossible space work out. You could look through a hallway into the next room, but the hallway might be on the other side of the map, and the room you were looking into might be in a completely different orientation. We could seamlessly insert an elevator, a huge expansive vista, a room that was bigger on the inside than the outside, or even create an infinite fall by connecting a shaft back into itself. Soon every connection between any space was a portal. We could even switch them on the fly. Even a simple door worked like the cartoons, just a facade painted on a wall that seamlessly opened somewhere else entirely. Once the game settled down, we were able to finalize our path and remove all the world portals. There's only one impossible space left in the whole game. See if you can figure out where it is.
Impossible space in the game. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Except for there was a puzzle before that was connected by an elevator in the previous game and now isn't.
Good work getting this far, Future Starter. That said, if you are simple-minded, old, or irradiated in such a way that the future should not start with you, please return to your primitive tribe and send back someone better qualified for testing.
If I was gonna guess, I'd bet it's the Easter egg place with where the Borealis.
To ensure that sufficient power remains for core testing protocols, all
really
safety devices have been disabled. The Enrichment Center respects your right to have questions or concerns about this policy.
Hey! Oi! I'm up here!
This interaction with Wheatley was the first that we hooked up for our initial showing at E3. It demonstrated how Wheatley would be an actor in the world, and how the player would not only be interacting with him directly, but also using him to interact with the Aperture facility.
Come on through to the other side.
The Wheatley model was designed as a mechanical version of the original Portal 1 personality sphere. Originally, they filled a very similar role to that in Portal 1, so we needed one base model which could hold a lot of different expressions. Experimenting with different rigging ideas, we came up with the onion skin design, where a number of spherical plates could slide around inside each other, all supported on a small motion platform mounted on a gyroscope. This meant that no matter what expression Wheatley was pulling, he always retained his spherical shape. The modelers and the animators collaborated closely on these early tests to make sure the design supported the range of expression needed to satisfy any personality sphere that got designed. Lots of ideas were thrown out, such as a small internal robot arm that Wheatley could pull out of one of his ports and pull himself around with. We were careful to make the mechanics look plausible, but we had to cheat the eyelids, since they ended up being a physical impossibility. There was no way all that geometry could fit into the space around his eye without clipping out the other side, but they were such an essential feature of the model that we resorted to crushing them up inside the eye, where the player can't see them.
I can't do it if you're watching.
Too much physics.
Alright, you can turn around now. Bam! Secret panel.
Why are they spending so much...
Pick me up. Let's get out of here. And off we go.
Thinking about how you'd really build something like this. Just cheat. That's what video games are all about. It's about making fiction seem like it's real, not writing a scientific paper about how fiction could be real. There's a big difference.
Look at this! No rail to tell us where to go. Oh, this is brilliant. We can go...
How do you make a giant mechanical eyeball express life and emotions, let alone give the impression that he's talking when he has no mouth? The animator's understanding of human behavior came in handy for bringing Wheatley the personality sphere to life. Talking is so much more than just moving a character's mouth. You have to use body language, head attitudes, and rhythm of movement and eye focus to indicate a character's feelings and motivations. Slow, smooth head moves, a steady gaze, and a relaxed eye aperture indicate that Wheatley is calm. Short, sharp head turns, rapid blinks, and glancing around.
Why would you put a director's commentary right there and then
probably ought to bring you up to speed on something right now. In order to escape, we're going to have to go through her chamber.
So
and
I have
she
to
will probably kill us if
on
she's
the behalf
awake.
of Valve for
if you want to just call it quits,
placement.
and we could just sit here.
I won't go
forever.
through loading
That's
screens
an option. Option A:
anymore.
sit here, do nothing. Option B: go through there, and if she's alive,
playing.
she'll almost certainly kill us.
That was probably very
I'm going to leave my cards on the table. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go in there. Don't go in there. She's off. She's off. Don't panic over. She's off. All fine.
Say, you know, Valve sounds like it's a very diverse team.
There she is.
Because
what a
I've
nasty
heard, like,
piece of work she was, honestly.
An Indian
Proper
descent
maniac.
accent,
Do you know who
Australian
ended up
descent accent,
taking her down in the end?
couple
You're not
different
going to believe this.
females.
A human.
Originally, GLaDOS was built to curl up and disguise herself as one of her rings, potentially explaining how she had survived the explosion at the end of Portal 1. But this wasn't a very dramatic reveal, so we threw it out in favor of spreading her out over a greater distance. This also made her more recognizable as GLaDOS when you initially crossed the room. The actual wake-up animation was a combination of simulated animation with a layer of hand-keyed animation over the top. A two-stage model was created for this scene. The first stage had separate pieces and connecting cables that would be drawn together by running a physics simulation so that the pieces would interact with the environment. Physics simulations were also used to break apart the objects GLaDOS crashed into while she rides around. At the point where GLaDOS rises free of contact with the ground, she switches instantaneously to a fully connected model with controls for hand-keyed animation. From this point, the animator enhanced GLaDOS' awakening by hand, choreographing the violent chaos of a re-emerging consciousness, while at the same time conveying the weight of a machine the size of an airliner. Once the hand-keyed animation was done, a final simulation pass was run to animate the cables and dangling parts of GLaDOS' body. The scene was produced very rapidly for an E3 deadline, and a traditional rig for the sequence was never fully realized. This made it difficult when we extended the sequence after E3 to add further animation, but we accomplished it by bearing in mind that GLaDOS herself is pretty broken at this point. The last part of the sequence requires the player to lose control of their view while being immobilized by a giant mechanical pincher. Once the controlled camera takes over, a careful alignment and time synchronization was required to make all the hand-animated models and camera interact with each other. Each of the stages in this wake-up scene contain a variety of processes that are very challenging to achieve live in a game engine.
I think that Valve in general would be better off if they embraced just cutscenes. Just embrace the cutscene. Short cutscenes are fine. What I mean by cutscene, I mean as soon as we walk through that door, it should have all been a cutscene. Just control the camera, make it all be hand animation like they were saying. Don't bother with all your doing it inside the engine so I could be seeing it from this perspective and this perspective and this perspective and this perspective. It is sometimes jarring to have the game take control away from you, but it is way too much work for a short event, scripted event.
Okay, down these stairs. Jump! This actually. Ah! Oh, still held! Still being held. That's a great job. You've applied the grit, we're all fine. That's tremendous. Ah! I just looked down. I do not recommend it. Ah! I've just done it again. This is the main breaker room. Look for a switch that says escape pod. Alright, don't touch anything else. Not interested in anything else. Don't touch anything else. Don't even look at anything else. Just, well, obviously you've got to look at everything else to find the escape pod. But as soon as you look at something and it doesn't say escape pod, look at something else. Look at the next thing, alright? But don't touch anything else or look at anything. Well, look at other things, but don't. You understand. Can you see it anywhere? I can't see it anywhere. Tell you what, plug me in and I'll turn the lights on.
I am glad we didn't sit here and have to plug Wheatley in a lot of this game.
Turning.
That would have been a pretty
fine, as long as it doesn't start, moving up.
Carrying around the whole game.
Escape pod.
Plugging
it's moving up. Okay. No, don't worry. I've got it. This should slow it down. No, makes it go faster. Uh-oh.
Power up initiated.
Okay, don't panic.
Right here,
stop panicking.
It is actually stopping you from getting out.
There's a pass.
You're too low to jump, and it's stopping you just from seeing over there. Nothing's happening over there, but it doesn't matter.
C. Wait, did I do B? Okay, start writing these down.
Power up complete.
Okay, listen. Alright, new plan. Act natural. Nothing wrong. Hello!
Oh, it's you.
You know her?
It's been a long time. How have you been? I've been really busy being dead. You know, after you murdered me.
You did what?
Cutscene.
Oh no!
This whole thing could have been a cutscene.
No! Okay, look. We
So
both
there's
said a
one
lot of
portal
things that
gun
you're going
being
to
left
regret.
right there.
But I think we can put our differences behind us.
Now this is also
You
the
monster.
introduction of the concept that there were two portal guns because
I will say, though,
it
that
really
since you
wasn't
went to all
shown
the trouble
that
of
way in
waking me
Portal
up, you must really, really love to test. I love it too. There's just one small thing we need to take care of first.
And I'm fairly certain that only two things could have happened to the second portal gun. It either was still in the facility at the end of the game, or it was on the moon at the end of the game. If it's on the moon, maybe Wheatley can come back for a brief cameo. I would tolerate him fine for just a brief cameo.
The incinerator room. Be careful not to trip over any parts of me that didn't get completely burned when you threw them down here. The dual portal device should be around here somewhere. Once you find it, we can start testing, just like old times.
So I'd be fine with Wheatley showing up for just a second and maybe starting some chain of events that he wasn't intending to start by accident.
Good. You have the dual portal device. There should be a way back to the testing area up ahead. Once testing starts, I'm required by protocol to keep interaction with you to a minimum. Luckily, we haven't started testing yet. This will be our only chance to talk. Do you know the biggest lesson I learned from what you did? I discovered I have a sort of black box quick save feature. In the event of a catastrophic failure, the last 2 minutes of my life are preserved for analysis. I was able, well, forced really, to relive you killing me again and again, forever. You know, if you'd done that to somebody else, they might devote their existence to exacting revenge. Luckily, I'm a bigger person than that. I'm happy to put this all behind us and get back to work. After all, we've got a lot to do, and only 60 more years to do it. More or less. I don't have the actuarial tables in front of me.
So, working our way back through Puzzle 19.
When the player first encounters the robot arms, we wanted to convey that they were still coming back online. The idea was that GLaDOS was just waking up and hadn't yet fully regained control of them. Slowly over the course of the first few levels of this act, she gets more sure of herself, and her ability to alter and mess with the lab increases. The arms presented a number of challenges, the key one being the interaction with the player. It was easy for the player to get stuck behind or inside of the models if they did something too complex. So we had to limit most of the arm action to the walls or ceilings of the test chambers, and we restricted their use on a larger scale to areas where we could be sure of the player's location.
Again, they put this right here, so close to the loading section. It's just, don't do this. If you're gonna put a thing, put it close to the beginning of a level, or make it quicker. Because if I can physically run to the end and get to a loading section, I'm gonna cut it off. No, I'm not saying I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the exact opposite of that, but...
Sorry about the mess. I've really let the place go since you killed me. By the way, thanks for that.
It should be a possibility.
Oh good, that's back online.
GLaDOS originally was a lot more cutting in these opening rooms, given that she's talking to someone she perceives as her murderer. Playtests revealed, though, that it was a bit grueling getting browbeaten by GLaDOS this early in the game, so her arc was rewritten to give her more of a slow burn towards the player.
Oh, so we actually saw... I didn't see this the first time. She pulled down the particle receiver and put up the laser receiver. So, kind of a direct indication there that they are getting rid of the particle concept. And
not bad. I forgot how good you are at this. You should pace yourself, though. We have
I don't
a
think
lot
the particle
of tests to do.
balls of energy were easy to render on their engine. I think we saw some hitching in the first game. We've gone all the way through the game this time. Never saw any hitching, never had any crashing. Except for I think I had to turn down the video.
This next test involves discouragement redirection cubes. I just finished building them before you had your, well, episode. So now we'll both get to see how they work. There should be one in the corner.
If a game looks good on its low settings, then that's good enough for me. I'll try higher settings, but if I can't achieve those, I'll blame that on my hardware. There's certainly benefits to going with the laser things. It allows you to play with these cubes, it allows you to run into them a little bit and not immediately die like the particle things. There certainly was that level where I just accidentally ran into particles in Portal 1 and died a couple of times.
Well done. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. That's what it says. A horrible person. We weren't even testing for that.
It does go to show that when you play this game normally, you see a lot of these loading screens, but it's not a big deal. Loading screens not that.
Don't let that horrible person thing discourage you. It's just a data point. If it makes you feel any better, science has now validated your birth mother's decision to abandon you on a doorstep.
Let's go over. I guess I could have taken the cube with me. Oh well. There's some good songs and a lot better use of music in this game than I would say was in Portal 1. Portal 1 hinged... The only music memorable in Portal 1 is the ending, which is very, very memorable, but they didn't try to have any other songs or anything like that. That is kind of a new thing for games. For video games to really make an effort to have songs, actual songs, and not just background.
Congratulations. Not on the test. Most people emerge from suspension terribly undernourished. I want to congratulate you on beating the odds and somehow managing to pack on a few pounds.
Another game that came out about a year ago, BioShock Infinite, which, while not my favorite BioShock game, certainly spent a lot of effort to have actual songs. There's one whole section where you're just walking through an alleyway and somebody's singing a song and you can sit there and
you're navigating these test chambers faster than I can build them. So feel free to slow down and do whatever it is you do when you're not destroying this facility.
It livens up the world, makes it feel more realistic. Songs. Now if you keep going fast, I am seeing... Oh, I'm killing myself. That's what I'm doing. Let's see, put that right there.
Give you credit. I guess you are listening to me. But for the record, you don't have to go that slowly. Waddle over to the elevator and we'll continue the testing.
I basically ran through that puzzle and it still said the same thing, obviously. Notice a tube here. If those tubes had said, like, gel flow on them, it probably would have been too much of a revelation too early, but it is a slight hint that there are these tubes and they've always been in the facility and we just haven't been we didn't make the connection.
This next test involves the Aperture Science aerial faceplate. It was part of an initiative.
This was the first test map that we created when we started to experiment with the aerial faceplate puzzle element. The map underwent many visual refinements, but it's one of the few puzzles that remained almost completely unchanged from its first form.
Now, there is some slight background music.
Here's an interesting fact. You're not breathing real air. It's too expensive to pump this far down. We just take carbon dioxide out of the room, freshen it up a little, and pump it back in.
And it just fades in and fades out, so you never really get
for the rest of your life. I thought that was interesting.
Full performance of the sound. It's more of just a mood creator. And that's not the kind of songs I'm talking about. I mean, that's its own thing. That's almost
Let's see what the next
like
test is.
A musical sound
advanced
effect.
aerial faceplates. Well, have fun soaring through the air without a care in the world. I have to go to the wing that was made entirely of glass and pick up 15 acres of broken glass. By myself.
Alright, so this time I'll try and do this.
The catapult trajectory lines seen here allow us to visualize where the catapult will deliver a player or a physics object. We can differentiate the speed and trajectory for players and other objects. The yellow lines are for physics objects, and green is the player's trajectory. Sometimes we need to have a different value to accommodate the shape of the object being catapulted. What works for the player may not work for an object, and vice versa. For instance, it was common for a box to make it to a ledge while the player would smack into the side, and then fall down into the slime. The visualization tools helped us debug these types of problems.
It was nice of it to keep me alive long enough to listen to that as I accidentally walked into the thing. Again, never promises for being no death.
Oh, advanced aerial faceplates. Well, have fun soaring through the air without a care in the world. I have to go to the wing that was made entirely of glass and pick up 15 acres of broken glass. By myself.
Oops. Great example of game physics here. You're not really having
sorry. I'm still cleaning out the test chambers, so sometimes there's still trash in them, standing around, smelling and being useless. Try to avoid the garbage hurtling towards you.
So we have the ball, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this, and then we have this. So it's the radio we want to take with us.
You don't have to test with the garbage. It's garbage. Press the button again.
Now there is the little bit of a problem when you're holding objects, they get stuck in the pipes. Probably will. Yep. That's strange. That's the sound that played in the, when they were secretly announcing Portal 2. I thought it was gonna play a song when I got in here. Well, either my memory is... That's getting really loud. Either my memory is failing me, or this is some secret announcement of Portal 3, which I do not believe for a second. Again, seeing all these eyes, these are phases of the moon. Everything being painted here is hinting at what's going to come. I had a thought about that, and here's my fan theory that's going to blow your mind, like mine is already blown. At the very at the bottom of the facility, we ran into a puzzle that talked about time travel as mostly a joke. But this game is so much this surreal thing about, from the very beginning, all the solutions are being hinted to you. The moon, and how would Ratman know about the moon? And that would be the solution that wins you the game. And lemons and potatoes, and there's just several things that are hinted at by the game makers, because the game makers know about it. But in the storyline, there's no real reason why it would be hinted at. Unless, and this is what's going to blow your mind, what if somebody went back through time and is warning you? So none of this garbage is heavy enough to actually push the button down. What if, like, the Ratman saw you die in the first timeline? And there's a little physics cheat there. That box would have absolutely bounced off, but they put an invisible wall there to keep it on the button.
Remember before when I was talking about smelly garbage standing around being useless?
My theory is
that was a metaphor. I was
the
actually
Ratman
talking
or
about
somebody
you.
else
And I'm sorry.
saw you
didn't
die
react at the time,
end of
so
the game.
I was worried it sailed right
Saw
over
the
your
moon,
head, which would have made this apology seem insane.
figured out ways
That's
to
why I had to call you garbage a second
subtly
time just now.
tell you how to win the game, and was helping you, and was running just ahead of you in this timeline, the second time around, helping
Did you know that
setting a
people
path
with
for
guilty
you.
consciences are more easily startled by loud noises? I'm sorry, I don't know why that went off. Anyway, just an interesting science fact.
So...
Oh, did I accidentally fizzle that before you could complete the test? I'm sorry. Go ahead and grab another one. Oh, no. I fizzled that one too. Oh well. We have warehouses full of the things.
So...
absolutely worthless. I'm happy to get rid of them.
Did a little trick here, just to prove it can be done. I saw this on YouTube, I figured I'd show it off. You can grab him as a model, Wheatley here, and take him with you. He doesn't say anything or give any indication that you've got him. He just sits here. He also doesn't have a fizzle animation, so there's no way for him to be fizzled like the cubes. So we've seen in the previous series that I took the companion cube after spending too much time trying to get the companion cube. This is the companion cube. Not a storage cube. I spent a lot of time trying to get that to come with me, and at the end it didn't matter because she fizzled it anyways. But since Wheatley here...
Uh-oh, you're stranded. Let's see if the cube will try to help you escape. Actually, so that we're not here all day, I'll just cut to the chase. It won't. Any feelings you think it has for you are simply byproducts of your sad, empty life. Anyway, here's a new cube for you to project your deranged loneliness onto.
I don't know why I triggered that. Because I don't know what I did that... Oh, what it's thinking is that I'm holding the cube right now instead of Wheatley. Because I'm not supposed to be able to Wheatley. This is, again, real-world physics. When they rendered Wheatley to show up for the second, there was enough time for me to run around and grab it. If it was just an animation with no actual ability to pick it up, then...
Every test chamber is equipped with an emancipation grill at its exit, so that test subjects cannot smuggle test objects out of the test area.
Then I wouldn't have been able to grab it.
Don't take anything with you.
We've created a cheat, a bug here. Ooh. This is... Nope, that's right. I got it all turned around. I bet he doesn't survive the load screen, though. Yeah, slightly heard an emancipation sound there. It seems like there's an emancipation in between the elevators, too. Yeah. But he doesn't have a animation, so if you make
this next test involves emancipation grills. Remember, I told you about them in the last test area that did not have one.
I have to make a huge apology here. I said throughout the first series that this was a version 1 emancipation grill. It's not. It's a version 2.
Oh no.
They're all version 2s.
I have to go. Wait, this next test does require some explanation. Let me give you the fast version. There. If you have any questions, just remember what I said in slow motion. Test on.
We needed a puzzle that would demonstrate the different effects that the Fizzler has on the game. This map was consistently the one that most of our playtesters would get stuck on, and we tried various things to make the puzzle easier to understand. Originally, this room had 2 Fizzlers in it and was divided up into 3 distinct areas. This proved to be too complicated and almost none of our playtesters could solve the puzzle. We removed the second Fizzler and simplified the layout of the room quite a bit, but most of our playtesters were still getting stuck on it. We identified the problem to be the space above the Fizzler. Originally, the space was completely open, but that didn't effectively convey to the players that they needed to shoot a portal above the Fizzler. We then tried putting glass with several holes in it above the Fizzler. This was slightly more effective as players would know that the holes are there for a purpose, and would try to solve the puzzle by shooting portals through the holes. The map was still not testing well though, as players could not figure out which side of the Fizzler they needed to be on when they shot their portals. We then changed it to have only a single hole through the glass, moved down to the eye level of the player, so that shooting the portal from either side of the Fizzler would be a valid solution. This change tested really well, and we started seeing most of our playtesters make it through the level without getting stuck on it for a long time.
If you make any level in any game and you're still at only most of your playtesters are getting through it, you still really haven't finished it. If you have 100 playtesters, just to pick a number, 100% of that, or at least about 99 of those playtesters should be able to get through the game without getting stuck in any point. This puzzle is alright.
We originally planned to use the same emancipation grid effect we'd used in Portal 1. We were surprised to hear during several of our early playtests that players thought this map was the first time they'd encountered one. Players walk through at least one emancipation grid in almost every map. Playtesters also weren't able to report the grid's properties. That indicated to us that we needed to better communicate when an interaction was occurring. Our challenge was to create an effect that was more noticeable to players, but didn't look so solid or so threatening that players wouldn't attempt to walk through it. We chose to keep the cool color scheme and reinforce the non-threatening nature of the field by mimicking the kind of water caustics you'd find in a shallow swimming pool. To communicate that the grid blocks portal placement, we added flashes whenever the player shoots one. To warn players that the grid will destroy objects brought through it, we added a vortex effect that increases in intensity as objects get near. Once these changes went in, playtest feedback demonstrated that players noticed the emancipation grids earlier and had a much better understanding of their function.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look at that vortex effect. It's some puzzle, but I haven't noticed the vortex. And as you saw, throughout the entire first series, I could have sworn, and I did swear up and down, that we had that particular puzzle used the old-fashioned fizzlers, and it's not true. And so I just feel like an idiot. How did it happen in my mind that I saw the old-fashioned fizzlers instead of the real ones? I don't know. A little bit of trivia. What is actually being said, if you slow down that audio, is a quote from Moby Dick and not the solution to the puzzle, so that kind of sucks. It sucks in two ways, because like they said, people were still having trouble with it, so at the very least, if somebody was really stuck, they could have, if the solution was in that audio, they could have actually used some kind of program to slow down the audio and actually gotten the solution if that was what she'd said. But it's just silliness to say Moby Dick. So we've done 2 chapters, and it feels like it's been long enough. So we'll do, I guess, 2 chapters every time, and per episode. That'll give us, what, 5 episodes of this speedrun commentary stuff. Again, I'm sorry about that one commentary that walked into the loading screen. It would have been a little bit interesting, but I don't think it's going to be mind-blowing. It would have been mind-blowing. I really like my theory that there's some time travel going on in this second game. It feels so surreal that that would make a lot of sense. I would definitely hope that there was a time travel element in Portal 3 if it ever comes out. That they explain all of that and all of that happens. You kind of need a time travel element in Half-Life universe anyways, because I think the outside world is pretty much destroyed completely. So if you can't go back in time and stop the aliens or the zombie apocalypse or whatever it is that's happening in the Half-Life series, then you're going to not really have a very good world to work in if you were going to have Portal 3 in the outside world, which is yeah, because all you're really shown is a wheat field at the end of this game. Of spoilers again, and maybe that wheat field is real. All indications that it is the real world, but maybe it isn't. Maybe it's all a simulation. If Portal 3 shows that she has virtual reality ability and she can just make hologram, like a holodeck, and so no longer do you go through elevators to load, you just stand in one place, or you go down the hallway and the holodeck rearranges itself. That would be really cool. I'm a little bit tired of the elevators and the load screens. I'm tired of the load screens. I don't care if I get on an elevator or not. It doesn't matter to me, that part. But I'm tired of the load screens, and a no load screen Portal 3 would be a major thing. I'd hope that they would be able to pull off if they ever made a Portal 3. Anyways, I'm supposed to be wrapping up. As always, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. I have several other series out. I'm not going to bother to list them right now. Just find my YouTube channel page, look at my playlist, look at my videos, go watch some more. Go through the playlist. It's easier that way. That way you see what series I have out, and you can watch them from the beginning in the right order. If you want to friend me on Steam or Battle.net or Google Plus or Twitter, yeah, Twitter's the big one. No, I'm forgetting that one. All that information is down in the notes, so you can follow me, friend me there with that information. We are done with this episode. Thanks for sticking with it. Have a good evening.